Good morning, everyone, or good evening and good afternoon, wherever you may be located. And thank you for that great introduction, Andy. It's been a pleasure working with GMJ for all these years. And, we see what you're doing and you're doing really, really well. And I really appreciate you putting out that breakdown of why my skin color kind of matches my pink shirt. I did have that time that I was just a couple of days before I had to come here on and present. I was in Miami. I don't know how many people are New York Giant fans, but I was down there watching the New York Giants play against the Miami Dolphins, and I kind of wish I was back home because they didn't do very well. But either way, I am here now and I'm ready to present and to answer Andy's question. Why have I been doing this for so long? Well, actually, I've been doing this for now 24 years. So I've been working in this industry for 24 years, assisting expats that are moving to the U.S., healthcare workers that are moving to the U.S. And I really think the best part about the whole process is being able to help someone who feels like they have no option in order to buy or finance or lease a vehicle. Moving here to the U.S. is a challenging thing. There's so many different things that are so many moving pieces and so many challenges that they run into. And then only to find out that if they run into a challenge of trying to buy or lease a car and they have no credit history, they feel like they have nowhere to turn. And what our program's been able to do for the last 24 years is be able to help those individuals obtain those vehicles for the same kind of interest rates or average American interest rates without any type of a U.S. credit history. And really just the opportunity to sum that all up is just helping people. We love to help people and we love to provide solutions and we love to find solutions to creative challenges. So that's why I think I've been doing this for so long. And, you don't realize how fast 24 years goes when you're having as much fun as we've been having. So I guess now what I'd like to do, and I do have all of your questions here. I'm going to try to just take every question one by one, just read through them. And some of the questions might sound similar, but some of them have a little bit of a tail off, so they might have a little bit of a different of an answer. In summary, but just overall to understand what International Autosource does, is we assist foreign executives, foreign nationals, expats, healthcare workers, anyone who may be relocating to the United States for the very first time. We help them either finance, lease, or purchase a vehicle without a U.S. credit history. In addition to that, we also help them obtain their auto insurance here in the U.S., as well as obtain their driver's license and their registration and licensing of a vehicle. We can assist expats from an individual basis, or we can assist expats in large group moves of 20 to 30 people, whatever the case that may be, whether the relocation is happening in the United States or over another 149 other countries that exist here within the world. We do have a full vast program, again, as I mentioned, helping with the car, as well as with the auto insurance, credit history, driver's license. And for any client who may not be moving for a period that requires the actual lease of a vehicle, we have a vast rental program that offers a full service solution from booking the rental all the way down to customized billing, whether that billing is going to be directly to the client, to the partner, or to the corporation. And we can talk more about that as we get through the presentation. Additionally, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to send out a presentations with a couple of slides that's going to summarize most of the questions that were asked previously. And in addition to that, any new questions that are asked today. All right, great. So I'm just going to get started here now. And one of the first questions that we had was, can we do the car? Yes, we can do that. And we actually suggest that we should start to speak to the assignee as soon as possible. We did a lot of research on this. And one of the things that we found is that when an expat is relocating to the United States, out of the top 50 things that they're worried about when they move here to the U.S., buying a car is not even on the list. It almost ended up as number 52. So it wasn't even considered. But once they arrived here in the United States, it became the number one option because now they've realized they've already set up their home, they've already set up their Social Security, they've already started to work on where their children would go to school. But now they've realized, well, how are we supposed to get to the grocery store? Or how is my spouse supposed to get to the grocery store or bring my children to school? Whatever that case may be, they've realized now they require a vehicle. And only now do they learn of the challenge of running into an issue with credit history. So one of the things that we suggest is allowing the assignee to start to speak with us as soon as possible in the transition. This allows them a little bit more time to do research, see the vehicles that they're interested in, review the vehicles online, look at the pricing, look at the payments, do comparisons, and then place an order on that vehicle while they're overseas before they arrive. But that is not required, but they can do it. The reason why we suggest it is because it gives them more time as opposed to arriving here in the States and then being rushed to make a decision And we all know if you make a decision in a rush decision, it usually ends up being, unfortunately, a bad decision. So any extra time that you can give your assignee before they arrive here in the US to do their own research would be more valuable to them. Next question was insurance cost alternatives for leasing. Insurance cost is going to be an individual item. So what I mean by that is every person is different when it comes to auto insurance, whether what's going to be considered is your age, the type of vehicle, as well as your credit history. So as you can imagine, and I mentioned before, credit history is a challenge. Credit history, not having one, is not only going to affect your trying to finance or lease a car, but it will also affect your auto insurance. Now, through International Autosource, we have established a relationship with an insurance company that works as a quote engine and allows you to be able to go out to almost 20 to 30 different insurance companies based on wherever they're residing, again, and based on the vehicle that they're driving, to help them receive the best insurance rates that they can receive without a U.S. driving history or without credit history. The idea is for them to receive the same as what the average Americans are paying, or as close to it as possible. Not receiving that insurance that we may have all received that first time we insured a car when we were 17 years old. That insurance would almost be double the price of the actual car. So it was very important to us to establish an insurance company and a relationship with insurance companies to take into account overseas drivers' records and foreign drivers' history and apply that here in the U.S. so that they can receive those similar rates to what the average Americans are paying. So that was a very important benefit and a great question. Another one of the questions that came through was just interested to hear, as car leases in the U.S. have become quite a challenge, low inventory and high rates since COVID. Absolutely. Those have definitely been happening here in the U.S. I don't know how many people, I don't know if you can raise your hand or if you can even put any kind of like emoji, but how many people over these last few years have purchased or leased a vehicle during this kind of COVID period, we would say. Unfortunately, the manufacturers were cutting production. Hey, okay, great. All righty. So the manufacturers were cutting down production on vehicles. The supply was less, and challenges started to arise where interest rates started to go up, and the car dealerships were starting to sell vehicles with what they call market rate adjustments. So you might actually go look at a car, you see the car says $35,000, and then in handwriting, so when purchasing or leasing a vehicle with our service, there will be no market rate adjustments added to that car. But to add to that, what's made it more competitive, or why the dealerships were able to do that, is because there was a lack of supply. Our program also doesn't face that type of lack of supply. We are able to, as a distributorship, we are able to order those vehicles in advance. So what that means is that when I order inventory today, I order inventory for vehicles 3 to 4 months down the road. We're ordering 200 to 300 vehicles a month, and we're probably sitting on at any time 400 vehicles of available models, different variations of those models, colors, features, options, 100 vehicles at any given month to provide to our clients wherever they may be moving here in the United States. So we've been able to be ahead of that curve and not be in a situation where we're charging customers, or they're trying to, because of a limited supply, we would be like a dealership and overcharge. We're not doing those types of things. The one challenge that we've seen so much that also has come since COVID, unfortunately, has been the rising interest rates. The rising interest rates we had customers that were as low as 2% about 2 or 3 years ago, and now we're seeing those customers leases about 7 to 8%. Some finance rates going as high as 11%. All relative to the current marketplace. What's important for everybody to understand is that with International Autosource, your clients or your employees or whoever you're recommending to us are receiving the same rates that the average Americans are paying here in the United States who have a fully established credit history. So we're helping them receive the same rates that you and I may pay. Without programs like like this one, you can see rates as high as almost 15 to 20%, and that would be even if they decided to approve the clients. The challenge, again, credit is also starting to tighten, so you're running into situations where those without any credit history are losing those special benefits or special programs that exist. It's not the case with International Autosource. I know that was a lot of information for that question, but I just wanted to try to cover almost everything that came with COVID, because it's been high interest rates, low inventory, and we've been able to overcome those, by being more of the head of the curve. Next question was, are the rates offered competitive and market driven, and do you help assignees source affordable automobile insurance? Yes, the rates are competitive to the current marketplace. Would we like them to be better? Absolutely. But the current marketplace is showing 7 to 11% interest rates. And again, that is for the average American. We're even seeing credit unions climb as high as 6.5 to 7.5% interest rate. For someone fully established, fully credit rating, banking with most likely banking for years with that credit union. Again, those are going to be the rates that we're going to pass along to the customers that are using our services. Through our manufacturers, they offer subvented lease programs or finance programs. We're able to pass those along through the manufacturers to our individual expats that are using our program as well. So the rates are competitive and they are market driven. And do we help the assignees with the affordable insurance? Yes, we do. The insurance, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a company that provides a quote engine that allows it to go out to over 20 insurance companies to provide those insurance rates and ensure that they're receiving the best rates for the area that they're relocating to. This is a really good question because you've seen some changes, of course, especially in this marketplace. We've seen relocations be 2 or 3 years long, or and get shortened, or we've seen lease relocations be 2 years, or even less than 2 years, because we're still trying to work through this work from home atmosphere and work through COVID and work through any other changes that are happening within immigration. So the question is, since most leases are minimum 2 years, what is the best practice for assignments less than 2 years? Really, the challenge comes here is, do I lease the car and lease a vehicle and then get to choose and have my personal preference and have my own insurance, or do I just simply rent a car? That's really the question that it comes down to. Most manufacturers will offer a leasing program for as low as up to about 12 months. However, leasing a car for 12 months and adding insurance onto that vehicle, you're going to exceed the cost of what it would be to rent a car. So the actual breaking point would be about 17 months. So 17 months is where you start to see a difference between renting a car through a program like Ready Drive, if anybody's heard that name before. But Ready Drive is a long-term rental car solution that International Autosource offers, that the rental rate includes insurance, and today is running about 35 to 40% less than the average corporate rate. So that rate with insurance for about 16 months would be better to rent a car. As you get closer to the 17 months and 18 months, you're going to be right on the fence as far as whether you want to rent a vehicle or lease a vehicle. And then the concern that I would say there is that if you want to lease the vehicle, now it's personal insurance as opposed to grouped insurance with a rental car. So it really would just come down to personal preference. But anything before 16 months, I would completely suggest renting the vehicle long-term, because it'll be more cost-effective for the organization and more cost-effective for the individual. Next, how are we acclimating to the changing times in our world? What makes our company stand out from the competitors with a proven track record? That's an amazing question. And the first thing I would say is that we also have one of those proven track records. Our program has been around for almost 24 years, and we've gone through every global challenge that you can possibly imagine, whether that challenge was 9/11, or the financial crisis in 2009, or current COVID crisis when we had back in a couple of years ago. Every one of those catastrophes brought new challenges to our program. And those challenges, we were able to adapt and make sure that we were always here for the client to provide the services that we promised, seamless transactions from the very beginning of the process to the very end, making sure that they're saving money on the vehicle price, ensuring that they're saving money on the financing, and ensuring that they're taking advantage of the auto insurance. So we've been able to stand the test of time through those challenges. But what are we doing now that makes us stand out today is most important is that we're not putting any market rate adjustments on our vehicles. We're not doing that. We're not adding to the pricing. And most importantly, we are overloading our inventory to ensure that vehicles are readily available for the expats and healthcare workers that are moving into the U.S. Typically, we're ordering about 200 units at a time. Now we've upped that to about 400 units a month. to ensure that we have 400 vehicles available, different variations, as I mentioned earlier, but 400 vehicles available for our inventory. So as those clients are coming in, they have plenty of choice and they have plenty of vehicles available for them. All right. And whoever wrote this question is helping me out too, because they've added to it that it's always a challenge. My question is around tax on a car, which is always a challenge. This is going to be kind of a two-pronged answer. One of the answers that I have to give is that if the question is related to tax, meaning that someone's personal income tax or something that they could write off, I'm not familiar with that answer, but I can find that out for you. So whoever did ask that question, if that's what you meant, if you could just put it in the chat for me, that would be great. And then what I'll do is I'll make sure I find that information out for you in regards to taxes and how it would work for either the corporation or the individual, etc. If it's taxes related to the state or local taxes, any type of lease that our program offers, we include within that lease the state and local taxes for wherever you're relocating to. It will be part of your actual, it would be part of the individual's lease agreement. It's not something that they have to figure out on their own. It's all calculated. We provide all of that upfront to them in their contract. They would have all of that broken down for them. But if it's something that they can write off or it's something that the business can write off, that would be something I would have to find out for you and would be happy to. I just don't want to provide an answer to something I'm not an expert in. One of the questions that came in was, how soon can an expat own or buy a vehicle? They can actually purchase the vehicle while they're overseas. And one of the benefits that we offer, especially because it came through the challenges of what's happened throughout the history of International Autosource, we offer a benefit that if an individual places an order on a vehicle while they're overseas and something was to happen, they're no longer relocating to the United States, their job didn't come through, anything at all, something prevented them from moving here to the States. Any deposits or monies that they provided us to place an order on that vehicle, which is usually typically about $1,000 to secure a car, that deposit would be returned to them 100% in full. So it's not something that we would hold away from them in any way. This allows them to place an order while they're overseas and allow the transition of either shipping a vehicle for them or building a vehicle for them. Because 99.9% of our clients are approved, because again, our focus is on approving clients with no credit history here in the US, we have the confidence knowing that we can start building that vehicle or we can start shipping that vehicle for them. We understand the risk of if something happens with their visa, we understand that, but we're willing to take that risk that if something happens, we would refund that money. In order for them to take possession of the car when they arrive in the US, so in order to take possession of their own personal vehicle, not a rental vehicle, but their own personal vehicle, they will be required to have their social security number before they do that. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Social Security process. Have to wait a few days, then you apply for a Social Security number, then it takes a few weeks after that. Typically, what's happening is while we're waiting for the Social Security number, we're collecting, and that can, right, great, good point, Catherine. That can take up to 4 to 6 weeks, absolutely. Typically in that process, if the organization has not offered their employee a rental car while they're waiting for these types of items, International Autosource typically helps with a rental vehicle if the client doesn't have or the employee doesn't have one, to ensure that the customer is mobile upon arriving in the US. We know how important that is for the individual and their family to be mobile. So we have that benefit that we offer to them upon their arrival immediately. With the 4 to 6 weeks, it doesn't, what I want to be very important when I explain is that we don't wait for all of that documentation like your Social Security number to come in and then start moving the car. The idea is for everything to meet together. So the vehicle's already on its way. The vehicle's getting closer to their local dealership. It's arriving, it's shipping. And while that vehicle is running through that process, we're completing all of the paperwork necessary for that individual to take the delivery of the car or for us to deliver to their home, whichever option we may have been able to complete for them. But the idea is, again, not to start once they get their social for us to start moving the car. We want them to meet together at the same time. So if a situation arises that an individual comes into the US, doesn't have any transportation, doesn't have their Social Security number, we would be able to help them with that transportation with a rental vehicle. And then their permanent vehicle or their personal vehicle. Once it arrives, they'll be able to take the delivery once they have their social security number. When I say shipping, I'm sorry, sorry, I just saw that question pop up there. What I mean shipping by that is it's not something that, like we're shipping overseas. So because the vehicles are within our inventory and they're kind of put all throughout the United States, each manufacturer either has a factory location that they're holding the vehicle at, or for example, Nissan, the Audi, Volkswagen, those brands, they keep ports around the US where they hold our inventory. So when I mean shipping, I'm sorry, I mean shipping, like shipping a vehicle from the Rhode Island port to the New York dealership for somebody to pick up their car if they're in it. Correct. Exactly. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, exactly. So I didn't mean military shipping, like shipping your goods. Sorry about that. And thank you for pointing that out. I could see how that would have been, that could have been confusing. So really, they can decide on the vehicle as soon as somebody arrives. They can already have their vehicle in transition, but then they can actually it's usually about 4 to 6 weeks, to Catherine's point earlier, that they'll be able to take possession with the social security number. How has the market changed? So the market has changed. Yeah, it's very similar to what I was mentioning before. Inventory has been low. As many people may have seen now, manufacturers are on strike here in the United States. Then you also have the issue with the rising interest rates and the market adjustments. Insurance rates are going up. There's all these different challenges that are happening with the auto industry. Many people are keeping their vehicles, leases longer than they would have. They're extending their leases. Used car values are sometimes higher or equal to new car values. And the challenge there is that a used car value sometimes offers a higher interest rate than a new car. So this is a very kind of different situation that we've seen in a long time when it comes down to the manufacturers not building as many vehicles and the higher interest rates. But one of the things that, we stayed true to was our values, and our values were not to take advantage of a situation. Most dealerships are going to take advantage of someone without credit. Most banks will take advantage of somebody without credit. The idea is to charge them a higher interest rate because they don't know if they're going to pay or not. That's been our program has been built on the fact that we have offered credit history to those without a U.S. credit history. And I say this in almost every meeting I attend, every presentation I go to, whether I'm at any type of conference or I'm sitting in a boardroom and explaining a program to someone. Not once in 24 years, based on how we have built this program with the financing and the leasing and the relationships that we have with relocation companies and moving companies and corporate directs and healthcare recruiters, not one single time in 24 years have we had a repossession on a vehicle, which is unheard of. But it's a very, very important a benefit for us to really point out, is that not having that repossession shows that we're providing the right vehicles to the customers, and we're not taking advantage of the situations when they could arise. The idea is for our program to be here for, standing still 25 years from now, and, taking advantage of any kind of situation that exists wouldn't be good for that. We wouldn't see ourselves there. But the availability was kind of short in the beginning, but now we have the authority, or we have the allowance per se from our senior management team to increase those orders, which was allowing us to get those to carry 400 vehicles at a time in our inventory. So we haven't run into an issue with actually having vehicle inventory. It may run down to a particular model. So there might be a situation where Volkswagen, for example, doesn't have the all-wheel drive systems for their vehicles this year. So we ordered an abundance of them before they ran out of the product, the piece. And now for the rest of this year, we have to sit with what we have in inventory until they kind of bring those vehicles back with the all-wheel drive option. We have a pretty good amount of those vehicles, and then I would say we're in a much better position than any U.S. dealer anywhere in the U.S. On an individual basis. But that same problem that we're running into, everybody's running into. But we want to make sure that we had some vehicles available, so we ordered an abundance of them before they ran out of the part. Kind of an odd situation, but it's something that we've seen with the lack of supply, unfortunately, too. I hope that answered the question. I know that was a little long-winded. Not a question, but a request to include information about insurance, driving with a foreign driver's license, and what prep should be done by an employee ahead of time, as well as guidance on when a car and driver would be safer and required in certain situations in certain countries. Okay, that's a great request there, and that's something that we can put together as a guide. No question about that. Kind of giving a little bit of advice here in any kind of situation I have there. The insurance, as I mentioned, we have our relationship with the insurance company, and they have 20 different providers that they work with. Driving with a foreign driver's license, one of the things I would suggest, especially in the United States, is to have your employees obtain an international driver's permit before they arrive in the States. If they're going to be here long term, it's just going to be easier for them to be able to convert that into a U.S. driver's license. If they're going to be here short term and only driving a rental vehicle, there's no need. Only thing I would ever suggest is having that international driver's permit, which is basically translating their home country's driver's license into English. It avoids any kind of issues if there was ever any interaction with law enforcement, or if there was ever an accident. It just helps speed things along, and people don't start asking more and more questions of why you're driving with a foreign driver's license. The international driver's permit does help with that. That's probably the biggest amount of prep that I would say to do when it comes to that, as far as if you know you're going to be driving here in the U.S. If it's going to be long term, I would try to get the international driver's license. And honestly, even if it's going to just be for a rental car, it might make sense to have it as well, just to have a document translated into English for anybody else to view. There's a fleet manager for corporate leases. Okay, I'm going to get to some of those questions. So I see some of the questions that are coming in there. They're great questions. I promise I'm going to get to all of them. And Andy's probably saying, no, don't promise you can get to all of them, but I will. I'll do my best to get to every single one. And in addition to that, I'm going to have slides put together to answer every one of those questions, in addition to the ones that you pre-sent in. This way, you always have something to refer back to and look at in case there's any information that you maybe didn't hear or anything to miss. Okay, please do. Excellent. Thank you, Andy. All right, next one. We are setting up our processes and exploring options when it comes to car lease or car rentals, for even purchase for expats. I would like to know which is most cost effective and any important factors to be considered before making a decision. One of the biggest things that this really comes down to is how long are those individuals moving for? If they're moving on a permanent assignment, then you can look at a comparison between buying a vehicle versus leasing a vehicle. So if they're moving on a green card or an EB2 and they're going to be here, the promise is for them to be here beyond the 5 years, and it's a long-term assignment that way, employment-based, then you can consider purchasing a car. Most of our individuals who are moving for anything less than 3 years and less look at leasing a vehicle. They look at leasing a vehicle in their own personal name and choosing their car and putting the insurance in their personal name, and then important for that, they're simply able to lease the car and in 2 or 3 years turn it in. And if they get extended here, they can get a new lease. But if they get to go back home, then they simply just turn their car in, and it's a lot easier of a process than it is for trying to resell a car if you own a vehicle. And then bringing that down a little bit further, as I mentioned before, the cutoff is about 16 to 17 months, where I would suggest that somebody looks at, comparing the rental vehicle versus the long-term lease to see what's more cost effective. The cost might be pretty similar, but it might come down to that individual user who really wants to have this particular car and really wants to have this particular color, which I'm sure you can all imagine doesn't always work out with a rental car. You kind of get what you get. You can get a type of vehicle, but getting exactly the model that you want is somewhat of a challenge. But it's not something that you can do, which is something you can do when you're choosing your personal choice. In this scenario that you're asking about, we are happy to talk with whoever the corporation may be, or the organization, relocation company, or kind of fleet request that you might have. In this scenario, we'd be happy to sit down and talk with them, review all of the personal needs, and put together a program that you can compare and make a decision on if it was something that you were interested in. We would provide every solution in that scenario: the rental, the purchase, the finance, lease, provided for you to review and for you to make those decisions. We would talk about it, whether it's going to be on corporate insurance or if you want to have it on individual insurance. A lot of organizations have been reaching out to us recently, and a lot of those organizations have been trying to limit their company liability and moving individuals to their own personal liability. So If a person leases the car in their own name, then they have their own personal insurance, not having the company liable in any case. So all different scenarios are available, and we would be happy to talk about every one of them and provide any kind of details or pricing breakdown that you would want to look at. One of the next questions, the resources available. I'm not sure, so we have, as far as resources available, we have programs, I'll just talk about that. We have programs that are available for financing or leasing a vehicle. You can choose that for either Canada, the UK, Japan, the United States. We have the car leasing and financing program. And then in 147 other countries, including those 4 countries, we have a vast car rental program that is able to be used through either Avis or Hertz, and it allows us to be able to have long-term rental car solutions, which some cases are required in those countries anyway. It kind of acts more of like a fleet type service where a customer has a rental car, they have it for a longer period, and they just simply turn it in at the end of their work assignment. So it's something a little bit more it's a little different than somebody's personal lease where they're choosing their exact car. But we have those options in a total of over 150 countries. The resources model, I might be saying not answering the exact question, but we have vehicles available. Again, as I mentioned, 400 vehicles available at any given month, constantly being replenished. So whatever is sold this month is replenished by incoming inventory. As far as we have multiple banks and finance solutions that are providing the leasing and financing to these vehicles, all following that same rule of helping with no credit history. Insurance companies, we have one company that has a quote engine for almost 20 different insurance companies. And as far as internally for our staff, we're growing again. We were at a point where we were at 12 product specialists, which are fancy name for salespeople. And when we did go down to about 5 right after COVID, but now we're back up to 12. We have 5 delivery coordinators that are responsible for managing the experience from the moment the individual places an order on a car through our service to the moment customer picks up the vehicle. And we're currently sitting on a customer CSI of over 72, which is considered world-class, a 72 score from our process from beginning to end of a customer picking up a car, ordering a car, and picking up a vehicle. So our resources are there, and we are ready to handle any type of aspect that could be brought for an opportunity, whether it's one individual or 10 individuals or 30 individuals or group moves. We have some organizations that have over 90 people in cars right now that are renting vehicles and continuing those on a monthly basis. So we're ready for whatever we need to be, whatever we're given the opportunity. Tax implications for assignee and employer. Again, that's going to, unfortunately, I'd have to get you that answer on that one. We have to, we don't necessarily, we're not the experts in tax implications, so I'd rather just get you the answer. So I'm going to make a note of that, and I'll make sure that I get that information for you, just to kind of explain if anybody can use it as a write-off or, if they have to report as income or items like that. And I hope I can answer that question for you. Are car lease policies limited to company senior management leadership? No, they're not. So it can be anybody in the company. So anybody who's relocating to the U.S., whatever level of the organization that they're in, wherever they're moving to in the U.S., we're able to help them with that car leasing. Same thing for the car rental program for the other 150 countries. It does not matter the level of employee who's moving. In some instances, we've worked with corporations that are putting together, they're moving different levels of employees. So maybe it's employee, manager, senior management. We can provide programs for that we provide a couple of vehicles in each category, level 1, level 2, level 3, and we provide vehicles in each category. The employees know this. We speak with the employee, and we help them with their vehicle and their specific category and ensure that they finance and lease their vehicle and handle it from beginning to end. So if that was a little bit more detailed to your question, but that's something that we can do as well. It doesn't matter what level of employees moving. We can help anybody that's relocating to the U.S. with a job assignment and a visa and an employment letter that needs our help. The top name brands of cars leased. I would say right now, and this is fluid. It does change. Sometimes people come out with cooler looking products or, nicer headlights. So everybody wants those cars, or something different or a better safety feature. Right now, the vehicles that have been really performing very well through our program have been Volkswagen, Nissan, and Audi. Those are the products that have been extremely. The vehicles have been available. Their inventory has been spot on. Their leasing programs have been aggressive. They've probably been doing the best as far as through our program. Ford is okay, but Volkswagen and Audi are definitely doing much better. What is the trend? So what is the trend around the expenses that a company picks up to offer car leases? This is not something I have definitive answers on. So as you mentioned, a trend. So I would really just give the opinion. Most of the companies, what I've been seeing them do is offer an allowance and say, you are this level, you qualify for this much per month. And that's, the individual employee comes to us, tells us that, and tells us what they're qualified for. Sometimes they go beyond that, and it's their responsibility to pay anything beyond that. Most of the time, they try to stay within that budget allowance. And again, that's something that we are happy to work with the HR representatives and work with the employee and individual employees. Or if you do that through your relocation companies, we'd be happy to work with them through that as well. Whoever we need to work through, we'd be happy to put together a program. But most of the time, when it's company direct and they're trying to assist, they're giving them an allowance and they're stepping away from providing that company car so that they can limit their liability and get out of the insurance issues or the challenge where, having to insure that car and having extra drivers on the vehicle, on their insurance policies. So that's typically what we've been seeing. We've been seeing an allowance for that. What is the cap limit of the lease duration? 12 months to 18 months. Well, it's kind of goes back to my answer there. They'll offer a 12-month lease, but when you look at a 12-month lease payment being almost $900 or $1,000 per month, then adding then adding $400 a month in insurance on there, you're looking at $1,300 a month for a car lease. We suggest in that scenario to rent a car. It'll be cheaper than that. It'll be renting a car will be $1,000 a month, including insurance. So that's why we suggest that. As the months grow and get closer to the 24 months, that payment starts to come down. And we say that cutoff is, we usually see it around 16 to 17 months where you're kind of at the break even, where you make the decision of, well, I really want this car, so I'll go with a car lease. As opposed to saying, it's really just, I don't care what I drive. I'd rather save the $40 a month or $50 a month, and I'm just going to pick up a rental car. So 16 to 17 months is usually around the sweet spot of where people decide what they're going to do. Typically, is the assignee expected to pay for parking fees and gas? That's determined based on organizations. Sometimes companies provide their employees with gas cards to cover gas for their vehicle. But most of the time, if a customer is doing an individual or personal lease, because they're driving the vehicle, they're responsible for the gas. They're responsible to pay for their gas. Parking fees, they're responsible to pay for wherever they park their car, just like you and I would pay. And it's going to most likely go back to kind of whatever the policies that are set. Sometimes we have, especially on a rental car program, we'll see some rental cars come through, the charges come through for gas or for parking tickets, and the provider will tell us just to go directly to the customer, or they'll tell us to send to them. And that's one of the great things when we talk about the Ready Drive program, which is our long-term rental program. That's customized billing. So we're able to adjust that billing and send the billing to an end user or to the corporation or to the rental partner or to whoever needs to be in that billing stream. We're able to manage that for them, something that rental car providers are not able to do. So we're able to provide that kind of personalized service on an individual basis based on every customer and every partner's or company policy. Next question. Does IAS have a presence in Finland? We are considering entering the Finnish market. So we could please appreciate if you can make an introduction. Yeah. So we offer our car rental program, which is also car leasing program inside of Finland. We can do that. And I did also receive another question that asked me about Finland. And in addition to that, asked me about Sweden, USA, Germany. They asked all those programs. So in all of those countries, we are able to offer either a car leasing or car renting program. Over 150 countries we're able to offer that service for. And the best thing for us to do would be, and it would be for us to have the opportunity to just really speak with you, understand your exact specifications and your requirements, and then we can kind of put that program together for you to share with your client or to share with your relo company, and then make that kind of best decision there and see, what works best for you guys. But yes, we do have presence on all of those locations. Okay, next question. Do companies typically lease cars for all employees, or is it based on a certain criteria? It depends. So they're either, if it comes down to a group move and it's a corporate lease, yes. If it's a group move, they might say, yes, we're going to offer everybody a rental car, and everybody can rent the vehicle. And the rental car program offers employee sharing. So if you wanted to, you have 10 employees going to the same location, and instead of renting 10 cars, you wanted to rent 5 cars. That is a very cost-saving benefit where they're allowed to share those vehicles and drive those vehicles, as needed. We do see that very often. We do also see individuals getting rental vehicles all on their own, specifically from the corporation. In a situation where there's a group move and it's a permanent move, or it's a 3-year move, you may see all 10 employees leasing cars through the program, but they typically lease them through their own name, individual name, not the company name, and they may receive an allowance from the organization. But that's completely up to the company and the company policy. But we do see those scenarios with the group moves, moving for 3 years and beyond, obtaining personal leases and receiving a car allowance to pay for those costs. And then I received one other question, which asked me about the challenges and kind of everything, all the challenges that we have faced, and how we've kind of stayed in business, and how we've done this for so long. So, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I've been with the company now for over 24 years, and through those 24 years, we've gone through those tragedies of 9/11, the challenges of the financial collapse, with manufacturers going bankrupt and needing bailouts, financial banks shutting off lending, most recently COVID, and most of it centering around people no longer relocating to the United States, or the people here that have already used our service having to relocate home. What we've always been able to do is just stick to our program and stick to our values and stick to the benefits of offering a seamless transaction and just doing the right thing. So in the case of, customers no longer relocating here, we tried to find other pockets of people who would be moving. When the bank shut down the financing, we created our own bank. So that was the way around it. We created our own bank for leasing cars. When they shut us down and they couldn't do leasing because of bankruptcies, we created our own leasing company. Financing, we found our own financing company that we leverage, that we guarantee the loans as an organization, so that we don't have to have the concerns that if they were to get into trouble like anything else, and anybody's to get bankrupt, we are already guaranteeing those loans with our organization. So we are protecting our customers and protecting the assets that they're buying. After COVID, we focused on looking at a healthcare market and helping nurses that are moving here for the first time in the U.S. So we're constantly changing our program and evolving and making our program better, but always staying true to the values of ensuring that we're providing a seamless transaction for a relocation company and a moving company. We know that you have enough things to help that you're individuals with, so we want to take one thing off the plate. Same with corporations. Helping a corporation, the HR team, I have to imagine, doesn't necessarily want to be involved every day on an individual employee's personal need of a vehicle. So we're trying to do our best to try to take that, that off the plate of the HR rep, so that they don't have to worry about an employee coming to them a week after arriving, going into their office and saying, I can't buy a car because I have no credit. Some employees would be even afraid to say that. They would be they would be embarrassed to even bring that up. So we want to be able to get our program and our information out to as many human resource managers as possible. So if someone does bring that to their attention, they know that there is a program that is out there that can assist that individual employee that's moving. So whether the HR department offer them, the relocation company offer them, moving company, destination provider, anywhere along that transition of the relocation, we will be there in order to assist and provide the program benefits. Just be able to provide that program to them. So that was all the questions that I had here. I hope I answered them all. I hope I didn't give too much information and bore anybody too much. We know how exciting it is to talk about the car world. Everybody loves to talk about cars. But I got through all 23, and I guess now we can open up the chat and try to see if I can answer some of those questions. I'm going to do my best to get to every single one. If I miss anything, I'll ensure that it's on the slides that I send over to you. So this way we can ensure that, we address everybody's concerns. All right. Now, we have no issues with, Catherine, we have no issues with renting or leasing a car in France. We offer that same type of program. So the 150 countries, France is one of those countries. So we would be happy to, we're happy to assist in that location for you as well. The end of the assignment and the resale. Great question. So at the end of 2 years or 3 years, if they're leasing the vehicle, they're able to actually simply turn the vehicle in and walk away. In today's world, one of the benefits that people have of the fact that they leased a car 2 or 3 years ago, their cars have more value to them than what the manufacturers thought they would have. So if they thought that the car was going to be $20,000, now when the individual turns that car in and the car sells for $22,000 or $23,000, that's a benefit that goes back to the individual end user. So the employee who leased that car, that's a benefit to them. That usually helps cover any excess charges they have on their car, turn-in fee, any kind of damages they have. But another question that usually is a tentacle to this question is what happens if someone goes home early? So if they have a 2 or a 3 year assignment and they go home after 18 months, or they go home after 22 months, there's a few things. One, International Autosource developed a program called Repatriation Protection Plan, which covers up to 6 months of payments on a lease, or a total of $2,500 on a lease for any individual who is sent back home early from their work assignment to help cover the losses that they may have faced by turning their vehicle in early. So that's an exclusive program to International Autosource, designed specifically to help the expat community that has that unknown of relocating. There's never a guarantee that they're going to finish their 2 or 3 years. Additionally, again, in this market, there's situations where they won't even have a bill because the vehicle value is much higher than what it was when they turned the vehicle in. When they leased the vehicle. But in 24 years, this is the first time I've ever seen that. So I don't know if that we'll ever see that again. But what's important to know is that they do have the option from us, the Repatriation Protection Plan, which does cover them up to $2,500 or 6 months of payments if they were to go home early. If they own the car and they want to resell the vehicle, we would be happy to help them try to resell that vehicle and make the maximum amount of money that they can back on their vehicle if they bought it to own. So that's available. That support is available to them as well. Yes. Does IAS provide assistance for international transfer to obtain a car loan? Yes, 100%. That's probably the biggest benefit of our service, Ursula. We're able to offer financing and leasing without a U.S. credit history. We're able to provide that to them, at the same rates that the average Americans are paying here in the United States. And it's multiple bank offerings that we have available to them to choose from. Oh, Catherine helped me out. So scary. Thank you. Shipping a vehicle, right? Helping me there. That was my mistake when I was talking about that. Oh, okay. So if for some reason an assignment concludes before time, what are the penalties applied on a lease cancellation? Typically, what would be required at the end of that lease would be the turn-in fee, a lease turn-in fee, which is on all leases. It's usually $450. It's called a disposition fee. And whether you were turning it in early or turning it in on time, they still charge that to you. It's their charge for transporting the car to the auction facility. It's really just a way for the bank to charge you money. Let's just sum it up quickly. But if you were to turn the car in early, you would be responsible for that fee plus any remaining lease payments. But that's where I mentioned, Rahul, that the repatriation protection program would be a big assistance because it covers up to 6 payments of that lease and up to $2,500. So there's a support there to help those individual expats that may have to go home early. And if the vehicle value is higher, the vehicle value pays off any balances that the customers owe too. So right now, probably for this year and next year, you're in a pretty good situation. But beyond that, you'll have that repatriation protection plan to protect your employees or anyone else that's leased a vehicle through our service. That's good for me. Yes, over 100. James, yes, we do support with leasing cars in other countries. Some rental car programs are actually called leasing programs in those other countries. So the best way for us to describe it is that we do offer vehicles in over 150 countries that you're able to take advantage of on a long-term, either a rental or a leasing program. If you wanted to buy a car or finance a car, you can do that in Canada and the UK and Japan. But as far as, support with leasing, which again is just like renting in some ways, that's available to you in over 150 countries. Ursula's question, is it more common for international transfer to lease instead of taking a loan? Depends on how long they're moving for. So what we've seen is with our healthcare workers that are moving on EB2 visas, and those are green cards and permanent residents, we see a lot of those individuals finance a car. So they finance to own a vehicle. So they're going to be here permanently. The idea is for them to never go home. They have their green card. They can buy a car, keep it for the next 5 to 7 years and trade it in or do whatever they want to do with it after that. But if an individual is an expat, so looking at the leasing or financing, typically if they're moving for a 2 or 3 year determined period like that, they typically look at a lease as opposed to a finance. A lot of the clients don't want to have to worry about selling a car or trying to get rid of a vehicle, shortly before they have to move. It's enough going on, packing your goods, getting your children out of school, all those other things that are happening. One less thing to worry about is trying to sell a car and hoping that you got a good value for it. So a lot of times with a set contract of a 2 year or a 3 year contract, a lot of times they choose leasing. I would say almost 90% of the time they choose leasing in that scenario. Yes, we do support international. Yes, we do have electric vehicles available. We have them available from our manufacturers. Oddly enough, we kind of, share some, our goods with our beds. Oddly enough, we kind of went a little overzealous with the electric cars, and we ordered a lot of vehicles for our inventory, and we didn't realize that, as the U.S. is not fully capable to handle electric vehicles as of yet. So we are sitting on some of our inventory because some of the locations, the Midwest locations where our clients move, or even some of the West Coast locations, don't necessarily have the charging ports. So some of the customers aren't able to actually buy the vehicles. So we did go all in. We did order a lot of electric vehicles, but we can only deliver them to probably about 20 of the 50 states because of the fact that not every state is ready for those electric vehicles. But they're getting there. But at the same time, and we'll communicate that to this person. And when we're speaking with the individual, we'll explain to them where they're moving to, and we'll kind of give them an idea of what the grid looks like and what the support for charging those electric vehicles looks like, so that they know that they're making a good decision for that. But yes, we do have electric vehicles available. Do we need to have a corporate relationship with AutoSource to get the benefits? No, you don't need to have a corporate relationship. You're welcome to have one. We do typically sign an agreement, just kind of verifying how we're going to make sure that we protect the data of your individuals and we manage the experience of your individuals. It's a commitment. So any kind of corporate relationship, you're welcome to just refer us to your individual expats. But we do. I guess the only thing we would sign is an agreement, that we're just telling you the data is protected, what we do to protect your data of the individuals, and our commitment to you is in that agreement, is in that letter of agreement. So you don't have to have it in place in order to send us a referral, if that's the short answer. I'm sure the senior leadership team likes to see a lot of agreements, but at the end of the day, I'd be happy. Just refer us and then let us show you that, we can fulfill the promises that we make. Yes. Is it possible to set up a company car lease for an expat as the driver through IAS? Yes, we could do corporate leases. That is available to a company, and then set up a personal guarantor that's actually going to be the driver of the car. So it's a little bit of a different terms when it comes to the lease. They need a copy of your annual review and a copy of your corporate resolution, and that allows them to be able to approve the company lease, just basically showing that the company is viable, and then they have the individual would be the personal guarantor who's going to be the driver of the vehicle. So no, that's not a problem at all. We do those all the time. Can IAS act as a fleet manager for corporate leases? So for the corporate lease, as a fleet manager, we would have we would want to review the account and see what kind of services that you're requiring. So does that include the maintenance of the vehicle, the gas cards, kind of making sure that they're bringing the car in for maintenance? We would do that with our partners with either Hertz or Avis, that we would manage that experience with you for a fleet arrangement. If it's an individual corporate lease, absolutely no problem, or even multiple. We've had up to 10 employees on one company lease. On a fleet side, if it goes really beyond that, we bring in our partners, Hertz and Avis, so that we can have additional services like the maintenance managed for you and that experience managed for you. So you know the inspections are being done on the car, anything that's required for the actual vehicle is being reported to an account manager. We do that. We partner with Hertz and Avis for that. Again, short answer, yes. Rahul, in the car lease policy, if vehicle servicing included or excluded, and as an assignee, you have to pick up the cost. So some of the manufacturers offer maintenance as part of their lease. So for example, Chrysler and Jeep, they offer maintenance for the first 2 years. Volkswagen also offers maintenance for the first 2 years. That's included for free. If they do not include it for free, we offer a package that covers maintenance such as oil changes, brake pads, and tire rotations that can be added to the lease policy if you'd like to. Otherwise, that is the responsibility of the individual who's leasing the car. Unless they rent a car. If they rent a car, then it's not their responsibility. But if they lease a vehicle, which is the 2 or the 3 year period, then they are responsible unless they choose one of those manufacturers. And we do communicate that to them, to the individual, so they know the benefit of each manufacturer when they're doing that price comparison. And to that point, it's up to the company. If they want to add that service, they can. If they don't want to add that service, they don't have to. Catherine, I'm going to have to put you on the payroll, I think. You're answering questions very, very well. Thank you for all your help, Catherine. I really appreciate it. Do you have a current inventory or do you reach out to your car dealerships? So we maintain our own inventory. As mentioned, we have over 400 vehicles at any given time that we're able to pull from an array of the manufacturers and all different trim levels and colors, et cetera. So they're stationed or set up all throughout the U.S. In either ports or in factory locations, waiting to be released from those locations to where the individual user is living. In addition to that, we can also source vehicles directly from the manufacturer. So we can ask them and say, this customer really wants this color, or this customer really wants these options. Is there any way we can locate that vehicle for us? And then when they locate it, yes, we can do that. In addition to that, we have dealerships that we can also pull inventory from as well. So it kind of answers all three. Yes, and yes, and yes. And we do have our own inventory. The repatriation protection plan is included in the leases. So that's an included benefit from IAS in our lease. That was to answer your question, Andrea. How much in addition does the repatriation protection plan cost? We include those in our leases. Enrolled agent is useful for expat for US. I'm not sure what that means. I apologize. Enrolled agent. I'm not sure what that question means. And Amato, would you be able to ask me that a little bit? When you say enrolled agent, would that be the individual expat? Or the person who's handling it? If it's down to the person who's actually handling the lease. So from the beginning of the process, you'll work with one individual who's going to guide you through the actual features and options that you're looking for and prices on all different models. And from there, we hand you over to a delivery coordinator whose responsibility is to collect the paperwork from you, send you out any finance or lease contracts, track the vehicle and make sure it's arriving on time, and provide you updates and solutions as this vehicle is arriving, and be your representation in order for you to pick up your vehicle. So you do have someone with you the entire time. Oh, okay. I was way off with that. My apologies. Yeah. When it comes down to taxes, as far as a tax advisor, I would have to get back to you on anything related to anything specific to the tax advising or the benefit of payments and how they can be referred for taxes. The only information that I can really quote on taxes is the actual state and county taxes that would be charged on a lease or charged to a customer on a finance. Whether those are, tax advantageous to anyone wouldn't be my expertise, and I don't want to speak out of turn. But I can find that out for you. I'll find out more on that. All right, excellent. How quickly can a company car lease be finalized? Uh, once the individual chooses the vehicle, we can have typically the vehicle takes about 30 days to be shipped to that location. So if we have the opportunity to start speaking with the customer before they arrive, we'll start the transition of the move to the location, and that personal guarantor just has to have his social security number, and then he's able to take advantage. He's able to pick up. He or she are able to pick up the vehicle, no issues. So 30 to 40 days, I would say. Again, we're doing the paperwork while the vehicle is being shipped. So it's all an idea for everything to meet at one, not for us to delay anything and then move it beyond that. All right. Was there any other questions or any other concerns at all? Yeah, great. Well, with moving rental cars, we have organizations that can help ship cars domestically. We have plenty of companies that actually help us with that. But with renting cars, we can help you anywhere in the US with renting a vehicle. Moving any vehicle for any customer, we have partnerships that we can work with to get you costs on shipping cars, no problem. With domestically. Did that answer your question, Amy? Okay, great. Excellent. So I don't know if there's any other questions or any other concerns, but just kind of like a closing thing from me, or just I've been doing this for quite some time, as I've mentioned a few times. I don't know if everybody's realizing that it's just 24 years. I kind of start to lose this a little bit after 24 years. But yeah, 24 years working in the same industry, and having the opportunity to meet so many different people and work with so many different people and see so many challenges that we've all gone through, whether it's, tax implications or whether it's relocation or immigration or whatever new challenge comes up. We always seem to work together, and we always seem to figure it out together. And, great organizations like Andy and Global Mobility Journeys and bringing us all together to talk about these challenges. He's going to be busy because new challenges always arise. But it's really great how we all get together, and it doesn't matter competition, not competitive, whatever it is. We're all trying to figure out this industry. And I've been working for a long time, and I love it. I love figuring it out. I love solving the problems, and I love being here to help you guys. And again, if there's anything that we can do, or any questions that you have, or anything related to leasing a car, renting a car, buying a car, what color is a car, anything related at all, just feel free to reach out to me or talk to me. We'd be happy to help you. Go Blues.